Good morning, everybody. It's 10 minutes after 11 on this 17th? 17th? Is it 17th? Did I get that right? 17th. 17th of November, 2025. It's not May, by the way, like yesterday. I think I said 16th of May. Today is Monday. And boy, I tell you what, watching all of this stuff going on in the world, this corruption and all of these strange things, it's just incredible trying to figure out, what is going on here, And who are the main instigators of all of this stuff? And you always look at these the men behind the curtain, George Soros and all that. But at the moment, you see these centers of corruption, I guess. What I would put them as, I'd say well, where are they? Where are these centers? And then there's these budding countries that want to be corrupt, and they're pushing in. They're corrupt as well, but they're not made it big on the list. But anyway, the three big corrupt centers of corruption at the moment is obviously, corruption and killing and death and all the nasty stuff that goes on in the world. There's obviously one of them is Israel. Most roads lead to Israel. Some people would say, oh no, it's Ukraine is the worst. Ukraine is a big center of corruption as well. And then you got the United States. I guess you could call those three the axis of evil. That's where most of the crap happens, or it starts or planned or whatever. Oh man. And then you got all these other places. Obviously, you got France, with under Macron, and you got the UK, and you got Germany with Merz. Boy, this Merz guy, I don't know. He's a wannabe, I guess. You see Merz, we stand with Ukraine. That's what he said before. And then what was it yesterday or the day before? We stand with Israel. So it says, whoever's the most corrupt, we stand with whoever they are. Probably says he stands with the United States as well. We stand with Donald Trump. I mean, boy, oh boy, oh boy. And Donald Trump, I mentioned already, it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before, these terrible things. Really, what he said about Thomas Massey, and Thomas Massey is actually a very decent person, and he wants to get to the bottom of what's going on with this Epstein thing. Donald Trump, he doesn't like anybody talking about it for some reason, and he said, oh yeah, we released the files. That's what he said recently. And why is he trying to bury this? And yet he said, oh, we've disclosed all of these papers, and I guess a lot of papers haven't been disclosed because it's strange. The Democrats just released some, and that's what this big stink is about these past few days. But for some odd reason, those were not released by Donald Trump. And I think it's also coming from the Democrats that Donald Trump's name is mentioned way over 1,000 times in there. And apparently somewhere in these emails or whatever of Jeffrey Epstein, there's some sort of a reference to the fact that Donald Trump did go to Epstein's Island. And I believe even Elon Musk had said that at one time, that Donald Trump had gone to Epstein's Island. And Donald Trump says, I've never been there. He's almost trying to make it sound like he never even knew Epstein, and he knew Epstein's very well. I mean, all these photos. There was one photo, I think Donald Trump, I think he's laying on he's in a bathrobe, a younger Donald Trump. His hair is a little bit messed up or whatever, and he's laying on the bed, and smiling, and it's like, jeez. And somebody, it looks like somebody left their luggage. Must have been broken. Looks like a nice piece of luggage over here. Looking through the garbage. I bet that thing didn't work. I wonder if there's money in there. Let's see. Is it heavy? Oh, crap. Oh, I didn't show you. I have to show you just a... Oh, lift it up with my foot. There's no $1 million in there. I was hoping maybe Zelensky might have sent some money over here. Maybe Mindic or whatever. Some of these guys. That scandals keeps on going too. And I don't know, you guys probably hearing a lot about that all over. And so what is there to say? I mean, you can go through some of the details, and it's just that this guy, he skedaddled to Israel, as you all know, and there's a lot of other people involved in that. So I don't know. I mean, there's not much more to talk about that, but What else? One thing about Zelensky's corruption, it's casting a big shadow over Netanyahu's corruption. So as we know, Netanyahu, to a large extent, is embattled. He's been embattled for, I don't know, maybe it's been 2 years now, with all of his corruption. And so you see these big Nazi leaders, Netanyahu and Zelensky, that are two big Nazis on earth, and they're embattled with their corruption. And I was thinking, well, it's weird. I don't. Maybe Hitler was just a lot better, because I don't know if he ever got embattled in any sort of corruption, or he was that powerful. And he had the brown shirts. Maybe bully people so that he didn't. He was never ever standing trial. And I think that's Zelensky's got his. I don't know. They're kind of what are they? Khaki. They got his khaki shirts. You know, these recruiters, and I think that's mostly all they're doing, is trying to grab people off the streets and throw them to the front lines. Mostly trying to find people that are ethnically Russian, especially getting them from Odessa, Kharkiv, and any area where there's maybe a large ethnic Russian population, and trying to get all those people killed and as cannon fodder, and throwing up to the front line and watching them all die, and to the hundreds of thousands, literally hundreds of thousands. I think is what Ukraine disclosed as how many that have died, and that was at least, I don't know, 2 months old. I think it was 1.6 million. I think they gave those numbers, and they're not including the people that have like disappeared. And as we all know, a lot of people die, and on the front line in Ukraine, we're talking many thousands of people. And these commanders, they bury the bodies, and they don't even report them dead, because they continue to get this money from the government, as small as it might be, the money that's coming from America and Germany and all, and you know, some of it goes out to those commanders, and they divvy it up. So the commander probably takes a big share, and all of the soldiers, as long as they keep their mouth shut, and they act as if these people are still there fighting when they've actually been dead, maybe for months, and they continue to collect this salary, so they're getting more monies. And boy, anyway, so I guess maybe in that way his khaki shirts, they're actually effective in, you know, money. But you actually wonder how many people actually did die, and it's very much like these Gazan people, and they know that it's they say it's a minimum of 300,000 people have perished in Israel's bombing of Gaza. And I think towards the end there, before the so-called peace, you know, and I think it's only like 300 or something that have died in the last month. So that's very much less than what was dying before, you know, the so-called peace agreement. And yeah, but a lot of people perished down there, and a lot more have been dying in Ukraine than what they're talking about. The Germans don't, I mean, it's not May. I'm getting all mixed up. I get kind of distracted looking at everything going on, but no, the Russians, they don't disclose that publicly. They do disclose it. Trust me, they do disclose it to certain circles, and I know that for a fact. And like I said, I can find out a lot more, and I can even, I don't know, I don't, it's not really good, because it's not to be released, it's not supposed to be, but could even write down all the names of all these people that are dying. But it's, I'm not gonna betray the trust in the person that can tell me that, which I don't demand anyway. And anyway, so it doesn't matter. So, but anyway, they do have a record of their dead, and it's much less than in the Ukrainians, and we all know that. Anyway, like Ukraine, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of videos where they're wrestling people off the streets and throwing them into vans, sometimes 2 or 3 at a time. I just saw some today. Every single day they're on the internet. The Ukrainians, and there's even men trying to hit they are hitting the recruiters, and but there's not enough of them, and sometimes you have enough women to where they have to let the guy go, and these women, they're just like kicking and hitting these recruiters that are dragging their husbands and their sons and their fathers off to die to a certain death under Russian artillery, just being used purely as cannon fodder. So, but he loves his people. I don't know, you hear that a lot from socialists, but I don't know, the Nazis, they don't ever, well, Zelensky does say that. He does, oh yes, oh the Ukrainian peoples and all that, as I send them all off to die for me and my wealth, and for the ideology known as neo-Nazism. Yes, you know how they salute. And I don't think anybody watched me. It's kind of a rainy day. Only a few people there. Everybody's looking at their phones, says, you know. Okay. So, old Adolf, he was allowed to get away with that, but you know, a lot of protests were going on in Israel, of course, as I said as well. And anyway, and I guess there's still stuff going on. Here in the Russian media, the Ukraine corruption is getting even more attention than at any other time. And as you know, this has been going on. I said that yesterday. It's been going on for decades and decades and decades. The mass corruption. Ukraine is always a very, very corrupt place, and it's on all levels. Like I just said, the commanders even steal the money, and the companies. This one guy, they were stealing. It was 100 million, I guess, is what that guy kind of got off with, and a lot of that has been come out. What the cut is, what percentage the people get. But I wrote that a little bit later here. Anyway, I'm going to keep going about this other, so much corruption going on. And I should mention again, I mentioned it before, and other people have in the past, you have to keep rehashing this stuff so that people actually get it in their head about what's going on. Remember, there was this leaked telephone conversation between Victoria Nuland and I was going to look up. I think the guy's name was Jeffrey Pratt. He was an ambassador, U.S. I hope I'm not mistaken. I don't want to slander somebody or something, but I think that was his name. And he was the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. And it was a telephone conversation. And Victoria Nuland, who actually works also with. Was working with, of course, Open Society, the Soros group, very, very, very close, and she was deciding on, you know, who's going to head the government here and there and all that. And they were, she was at that time she was suggesting Yatsenyuk, and Yatsenyuk, he was a lower middle class type of guy. He was still paying. He was renting an apartment. He couldn't afford an apartment. He was. Probably, I don't know, he wasn't as poor as I am, but he was quite a poor guy, lower middle class, like say some worker somewhere. That's the kind of money that this guy had. And then he was catapulted into becoming the prime minister of Ukraine, and I don't know, what was he there, 2 years maybe or something like that. And then now he's living in the United States with a big luxury, massive complex, lots of buildings and a swimming pool, huge. And he's somebody, I guess, at the end of that time they were talking about that he had 1 billion. I don't know that he had 1 billion. He definitely had many millions, and of course, so he left in a couple of years. That's pretty good for a guy when you get a salary of I don't know, 20,000 a year or 30,000 with those politicians. Well, as prime minister, he probably got a lot more. He maybe got 40,000, but I mean, yeah, in 2 years, I mean, he must have really saved his money. Did some good investments. So anyway, yeah, but anyway, she admitted that in a telephone call. Speaking of the USA, and a guy, he was living in the USA. Supposedly some of these disclosed, like I said, Epstein messages, they mentioned Trump one of them, and I think it was. I saw a video this morning, and I don't have the time really to be watching all these videos. Who does? But it was George Galloway talking, and I don't know what it was, some sort of a "Will Trump survive?" or I don't know what the name of the video was. But I think he was even saying that it sounds like a little bit too ridiculous, but maybe not. I don't know. But it said in some of these Democrat things that Trump went down, circus seal sort of stuff on Bill Clinton. Booba, I guess, they. And then they said, oh, Booba, that was the name of Ghislaine Maxwell's horse. So maybe Trump went down on Ghislaine Maxwell's horse. But I think that's just too ridiculous anyway. But anyway, there was a good joke, if it was on Bill Clinton, and so that a lot of them, and I guess that was the more prevalent one, because it was not written anywhere about anything about Ghislaine Maxwell's horse, but they said that they're alluding that Trump, got on his knees and did the circus seal on Bill Clinton, yeah. And a lot of people are saying, well, that brings more legitimacy to why Trump called it his big beautiful bill. So I guess that's maybe the real big beautiful bill, or maybe he was naming it the big beautiful bill in honor of his days with Bill Clinton. It's possible. Somebody put that in a comment on the George Galloway's thing, and it was such a brilliant comment. I had to use that, and I mentioned, the guy knows where my site is, and I said I'll probably mention that in a video. So whoever said that, that's the funniest thing. Big beautiful bill. Bill that big? I don't know. Oh gosh. Yes. Well, that's a blow to. No, wait. Don't use that. I was thinking that's a blow to Bill Clinton, but can't use that talk like that. Anyway, it's just somebody trying to muddy the waters, I guess. Throwing a bunch of stuff out there, and Trump does that himself with all of his insults and slander. Donald Trump actually slanders. He slandered Massey. So if that is not slandering, what is slandering? Why is it that nobody is successful at going after Trump, but Trump is always successful at going after everybody else? And what the BBC did, they cut and pasted and redid some crap on some sort of a speech that Trump gave on that January 6th, and yet Trump is able to threaten a lawsuit of $1 to $5 billion or British pounds, I don't know, whatever the case might be. But yet when Donald Trump calls a sitting congressman a loser, isn't that like slander? Isn't that slander? I don't know. What else did he say? Maybe he called him a loser to that guy's wife, and a lot of other things. But the guy's a congressman, and that is definitely slander in my book, because the guy is going to be running for re-election. And when you have somebody in the position of Donald Trump in the same party, I'll tell you what, if it was a Democrat saying that, maybe you can get away with it without it being slander. But when somebody who heads your party and says those things that he was saying about Thomas Massey, there's grounds to sue. And I don't know. And he calls Marjorie Taylor Greene a traitor. A traitor. And a traitor is somebody that maybe sells out their own government, and not. And she's not even sold out the Republican Party or the agenda that she agreed to sign onto, which was against corruption and to expose these things. So is she a traitor to Donald Trump? And who is friggin' Donald Trump anyway? I mean, to his personality, a traitor to Donald Trump. I mean, are we supposed to, did she swear an allegiance to the U.S. Constitution, or did she swear an allegiance to Donald Trump? So I guess that would be one of the issues. I don't know. But she's trying to stay away from all these political, fights and all that, but here's Donald Trump. And what about Maduro, calling Maduro a narco drug boss, a narco dealer or something like that? I mean, Maduro do you think, and he's leading a country, and this guy's slandering this guy's position as president, and apparently they even made up some fake drug cartel's name. I guess that came out from Marco Rubio, and all the people in Colombia and all the people in Venezuela said they've never heard of this drug cartel, but that's supposedly the one that Maduro is the leader of a fictional drug cartel that nobody has ever heard of, you know. And there was another video of a supposed drug runner, and everybody's asking that there is no evidence. They provide no evidence, nothing whatsoever, of who these people are and if they even have any drugs. They just show that they're blowing up these boats, and it's a very well-known fact that some of them are only fishing boats and they don't have anything to do with any drugs. That's already been proven. And then there was this latest video, and it's actually fairly clear. It's fairly, you can see, and it's a black and white one, of course, and you're looking and you see what really looks like fish. It looks like a lot of fish in this boat, and yet I can only make out one guy, but apparently they killed 3 people. And yeah, and they're saying that it's drugs, and I'm not saying that it isn't drugs, but it doesn't look like drugs. And if the United States knows that for sure, well, why don't they show anybody any evidence? No evidence. It doesn't exist. It never does. And they just blow up these friggin' boats. And it's just like Benjamin Netanyahu is perfectly willing to sacrifice his people on that October 6th? October 7th. October 7th, getting my dates, my terrorist dates mixed up. This October 7th, 2023, when this is according to members of the Knesset, of the government of Israel, that Benjamin Netanyahu had Israelis killed. He had his own people killed in order to fulfill a political agenda. And that's been put out ever since that happened on that day. And there's just way too much very strange evidence. These people were held back for 20 hours, so nobody was allowed to respond to this so-called terrorist attack for like 20 hours. And I think it was Matt Gaetz that said, when he has been to the Israeli border there, he said you can't go more than 5 meters without seeing an Israeli guard all along the border. So how could that possibly have happened in the first place? There's just so much of this stuff. I mean, you can go on. I don't even want to keep. I've already talked about that, and others have too. It's just a big scam, no matter what. Corruption. And then you have Zelensky sending his people to death. I don't know. These people, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I'm getting worked up about that. Okay. Yeah, but George Galloway, Kim Iverson, Candace Owens, everybody's asking all about these questions and coming up with these very strange facts about these happenings, and wanting answers. And I guess for that they should be attacked. It's just like what happened with Charlie Kirk. If you ask any questions, then you're some kind of a low-life scumbag. So you're supposed to believe what the official story is, even if it doesn't make any sense, even if nobody ever saw this Tyler Fisher or Tyler Robinson guy, Tyler Fisher, this Tyler Robinson with a gun, and none of that stuff makes any sense whatsoever, but you're not allowed to ask questions. He did it. Let's put him in prison. Let's give him the death penalty. That's what that's all about. Okay. Well, one of my neighbors is coming, so I gotta kind of head out this way. Yes, so anyway, so even this deranged and hateful Prime Minister of Poland came out and he said something very wise. He said, it's something that, I don't know, the good friend of his good friend Zelensky and Trump, and they should recognize this. And it was it's very similar to what Richard Nixon said. Oh, This guy's coming this way, so I gotta go somewhere else. Anyway, what did Richard Nixon say? It was around this time of the Watergate scandals, and well, after that, when he was planting these listening, well, not personally, but he had people planting these listening devices. You know, back then it was a bad thing, but it's going on now. Like I said before in another video, it's Obama, he's able to do that, but if you're Obama, you can do anything. I mean, some of these people, I don't, back in those days, and I was taking politics in university, and then they were talking about Nixon, and they called it the imperial presidency, which is very strange because now they came up with this thing, the Democrats, talking about we don't need any kings or no kings or something like that, about Donald Trump. Imperial presidency, Donald Trump. But anyhow, what did Nixon say? What Nixon said, and apparently this Donald Tusk, Prime Minister of Poland, was actually telling Zelensky that he needs to get a grip on all that corruption. He said, it's not, well, anyway, what Nixon said was, it's not the crime that will sink you, but the cover-up. It's the cover-up of the crime. So, Zelensky, or Donald Trump trying to cover up this Epstein affair stuff. Epstein who? I mean, it's absolutely incredible. I don't know how, I really don't know, because a lot of times you see a lot of these big corruption things, and these people they're caught red-handed, or they're friggin' guilty beyond anyone's doubt, and yet they still survive politically. Benjamin Netanyahu, I mean, it's incredible. And these people are so corrupt, you know? It makes you wonder, well, what does it take? Why some people actually do kind of go down? Nicolas Sarkozy, I think somebody said he spent 3 weeks in jail. Seems like it was only a week to me, but maybe it was altogether 3 weeks. And then, of course, then they let him out for, I don't know who, maybe it was a big deal. I mean, rich people and the famous people, they rarely ever have to suffer unless it's other rich people or politicians that are the ones that take them down. And they got to take them down pretty good. Yeah. Rand Paul, he came out politically, loudly, and he asked the question to Trump, why is he silent about all of this massive corruption in Ukraine? Why is he silent about that? Which is a very good question. When people ask them about all of these just this 100 million, even though there's far, far, far more than that. But anyway, why is Donald Trump not saying anything about it? You know? Why is it that every time I go on a path, the very next person that comes, I don't know if you guys can see, they have to walk down the path I happen to be standing on. Why didn't they take that path? And which way is this guy going to go? Why did he even walk this way, walk that way, when he's going to be going that way? Why didn't he walk on the sidewalk that's out there that goes exactly to where he is going? I guess he wanted to see what I'm doing here. Anyway, so Rand Paul, what did he say? He was coming up, he wanted to put an oversight bill, I guess after Donald Trump became president, so that they can watch and see where this money is going, where the money is going that they send these billions and billions and billions of dollars that they send to Ukraine. And it was put down. People voted it down. And I know why they put it down, and you know why they put it down. It's because they're stealing some of the money too. And that's why nobody wants any oversight on all this money that's going to Ukraine, is because they got their friggin' fingers on it too. They're all stealing money. And look at Merz, look at Friedrich Merz. What was it, yesterday? He voted for, what was it, another billion or 1.8 billion? And just a week before that, he had other billions that he's sending to Ukraine. I mean, the more you hear about the corruption in Ukraine, the more money that old Friedrich Merz wants to send there. I mean, what is going on with Germany? You had Olaf Scholz, and people were asking, what the heck are you doing? What is all this crap that you're doing? You know, and they stand with Ukraine. They let their own pipeline get blown up. I mean, can you imagine? And then they have the AfD, this other party that doesn't want to send this money. And they question being in the European Union at all, even if Germany actually has a lot of the control of the European Union. You know? And Elon Musk, of course, stands with the AfD. And then, of course, what? Oh, Friedrich Merz, he won that election, this last election for becoming the prime minister. And then right after that, just days afterwards, they released the poll and said the most popular party in Germany is the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland party. You know, well, lo and behold, but I guess right before the election, it was Merz that was more popular. I mean, they didn't do another poll. They knew that all the time. It was all nothing but a cover-up. I guess it's, you know, when they announced fake poll numbers, it's so that everybody will say, well, oh, the polls say that this person is better, so I'm going to go with that poll. And it's just like Donald Trump. The poll was was just also released. What was it? Just yesterday, after Donald Trump had attacked Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie went up massively in the polls. And then after that, Donald Trump, I think he said that Massie is 8% in the polls, which is not true, of course. And then he said it was yesterday later, maybe it was later in the day, Massie is 6% in the polls, as if they did another poll, and maybe they did do another poll, but Massie has surged really, really high. So he's very popular now in Kentucky. And Donald Trump turns around and turns it backwards. I guess it was 8% are not in favor of Massie, you know, and maybe Massie has got like 60 or 70% approval rating in Kentucky. So Massie's really happy, and Donald Trump is putting out his regular lies. I mean, my God, what a friggin' embarrassment and a disappointment Trump is turning out to be. I just can't believe this stuff. So, yeah, but anyway, like I was saying, this Prime Minister of Poland was warning Zelensky all the time about all of that, his corruption, about Zelensky's corruption, stealing all that money. I don't know how much the Poles are stealing and all from that. They're getting a big chunk anyway, because most of the weapons are going through Poland. And of course the port at Odessa and Romania and all that, a lot of big people are getting a lot of money. Like I said, that is the biggest thing. You know, you would think that the drug trade has got the biggest profits, you know, or the child trafficking or sex trafficking or organ trafficking. They got all of this corruption going on. This is massive. And some of the biggest leading places, like the organ trade is huge about Israel. Israel has doctors, and they have a lot of the doctors that go and take the organs out, a lot of times like the kidneys of living people and all that, and they make these deals. One of the big places was Brazil. I don't know if it's still going on, but they would go to Brazil and they would get these kidneys. And then, of course, a lot of that was, you know, these wars, this stuff that they're doing against the Palestinians and all that. A lot of time, they take certain people, and they have like these little color guides, and they look at the skin color. But this is the honest to God truth. I swear to you, and you don't hear this very often. But they go to the Palestinians, and they find the ones that have a lighter color of skin, certain ones, and then they try to match the color of the skin of these people. And a lot of these times, people are killed for the color of their skin, and then they take huge amounts of skin from their back, and they use that for Israelis or for people that have a lot of money that have skin cancer, and they do skin grafts for people that have skin problems or skin grafts, and they want this skin. So a lot of these people are killed for their skin. It's like in the trappers in the old days in America or whatever, going and getting beaver skins and things like that. This is really incredible stuff. I mean, the stuff that goes on in the world. I mean, if somebody had access and was really interested and could stomach all of this corruption and this crap that goes on, like genetic weapons and things that are getting developed and all this is some, I mean, I don't know if I'd even want to watch this. There's so much stuff going on. I mean, man, I don't even want to. I mean, right now my mind going through all of these terrible things that you hear about that people are doing, and politicians and everything like that. Somebody even put up something on a site today. In a way, it's funny. It's not so bad, but it's still kind of sick. But I think it was a school teacher. I'm almost positive it must have been a school. And she was kind of pretty. She looked like she was maybe about 40 years old, blonde, school. Maybe you guys saw this. Maybe you saw that somewhere. But she made cookies for her class. And I guess it was turned out that she had some sort of a body fluid from her husband that was put into the cookies, you know. Makes you wonder if her husband was also involved in doing this stuff. It sounds like a pretty kind of a sicko sort of a thing. And then, but anyway, put it in the cookie dough and gave it to her class to eat. Ugh. Anyway, boy, a lot of crazy crap. It makes you, I don't know, makes you freak out about everything that goes on. You don't want to do anything in the world today. Think about those friggin' cookies. Anyway. So, like I said, and it should be repeated, it's not necessarily the crime that's going to do you in, it's going to be the cover-up. The cover-up is what gets you when you're trying to cover up the crimes, you know. But in Ukraine itself, everybody knows that most of the entire nation for a long time is just filled with corruption on top of corruption at all levels. So, and there was a percentage, and I thought I wrote this. Maybe I did write it. Let me see, because if I didn't write it, I'll say it right now. So there's a okay, yeah, it's coming. Where is it at? Well, it's coming. I'll get to that. It's on the end of the next page here. But I got to make sure I say that. Well, let me just say it now. I'll have to skip over it when I get there. But it apparently what was uncovered with this some of these corruption agencies and in Ukraine, and Zelensky was trying to end these corruption agencies, but it was the Ukrainian people were really rebelling, and he had to keep them going. And of course it's detrimental to him now too, and I think he's trying to do some damage control on that. But apparently a lot of these people that are involved in corruption in Ukraine, I guess their cut, I don't know what Zelensky's cut is. Definitely Zelensky gets a big cut. There's no doubt about it. And everybody knows, like when it was disclosed that every month, I think it was $50 million, Zelensky sends $50 million to some bank in Abu Dhabi or Qatar or somewhere. And I'd almost forgotten about that, but that's like, but see, that's what I mean. And people don't talk about that anymore. But it was proven. That was a proven fact that he's got every month like an allotment going, $50 million of money that I don't know. Who knows? Maybe that is legitimate because he has a huge monopoly on the media, the entire media of Ukraine. You know, the television stations and all of that. And these other businesses, I'm not saying how he got the money to get these businesses and to get control of all of this stuff, but you already know about his winery and huge acreage in Italy and all of his villas all over the place. He's got like one on Baker Street, I've said, and he's got one that used to, you know, it was one of the big luxury hunting parks or whatever of the royal family of England, and he bought that. And the mining industry he has 51% of the control of the mining industry in South Africa. Got a casino in Cyprus, and those are just the ones that we know about, the ones that he's covered up, because he's tried to cover up those. He puts them in other people's names. Some of it's in his wife's name. Some of it is in the name of a company his wife owns. You know. And of course he bought a big estate in Israel. You know, that was very early on for his parents. So they're in a luxurious estate in Israel. But wait a minute. As I'm saying, and somebody also, it was this Rafsanjani, I think he's got a show called Going Underground, but he was talking to somebody who was very big in Israel. I don't know if it was a big advisor of, was it Israel? Was it Ukraine? No, it was in Israel, definitely of Israel. And it was this book, and a lot of it was detailing all of the ways that Adolf Hitler and the Nazis were helping and funding for the establishment of Israel back in those days. And I know that it's a fact. I've heard it myself. And Adolf Hitler was even giving transport to send Jewish people. But wait a minute, I thought it was genocide. I thought he was trying to kill off the entire race. So why would he pay to send all of these people to Palestine? Doesn't make, but it does make sense. It does make sense when you look at today and what's going on, and how Israel, which are Jewish, they work with the Ukrainian government, which are Nazis, and they are best buddies in most ways, and they cover for each other. And why is it that the big Nazis, they run to Israel when they want refuge? Doesn't make any sense. It's sort of like, remember the not that long ago when you have all of these people from ISIS getting their all the big military commanders, when they get wounded in these wars, what was going on in Syria, they went and got their medical help in Israel. Wow, wait a minute, but don't they hate Israel? Isn't that what we're told, that they hate Israel? You know, again, I got to throw this in, that the original definition of ISIS, ISIS, is Israeli Secret Intelligence Services. And I'll bet the Israelis are friggin' laughing their heads off how they got so many people fooled. I don't know. You can just go on and on and on. You got to try to remember all of these facts that come out, and sometimes often with photographic evidence and emails and everything else. And yet, you know, bam, we forget about it. Or we're told, and then they come up with a lie that says exactly the opposite, and we're supposed to believe that. Say, oh yeah, because that's what we're spoon-fed. It's incredible. So you got to remember all of these other facts when they show you the proof. You know, and it goes completely contrary to all the crap that they stick in our heads to try to cover up the other stuff that actually leaked out by accident. It's just bull crap anyway. So, okay. So anyway, I guess what Rand Paul was trying to I got off on a tangent there. Rand Paul was trying to get from Donald Trump is that you know, that Donald Trump should be addressing all of this foreign money that Ukraine has been stealing, and that now that they have evidence of that. But I guess a lot of people are saying that it's worth it. It's worth it, even if they're stealing a huge percentage of this. At least they're killing the Russians. That's the whole goal of this whole thing. At least, like Senator Lindsey Graham said, you're killing Russians. That's what we want. They want to kill Russians. Boy, oh boy. What? I mean, yeah, because the Russians, they stand for family. They stand for Christianity. They stand for the rule of law. Gosh, disgusting, disgusting people. Wow. And they stand for people. And they came up with some phrase like, the people belong to the land and the land belong to the people. I mean, how is that supposed to work when you want to take them from Gaza and throw them to some other country, or kick the Native Americans off and put them on some reservations, or all of that sort of stuff? I mean, damn, those Russians. Of course, some of that stuff did happen a little bit also in Russian history, but of course people did it actually by choice. They didn't forcibly move people, I don't think, you know. And I don't think. I might be wrong. I don't know everything about Russian history. That was not my chosen topic back in those days. Okay. I'm not sure. I should have. But just one strange thing is Donald Trump. I just saw today. He was talking about Mandami, and he started, yeah, well, we have to talk. Yeah, we can maybe arrange things because I care about New York. And it's like, what? It's a big contrast to what he said last week about Mandami, that basically that he's a vermin and a scumbag, and we have to get rid of this guy, and I don't know. And now he says he wants to talk to him. You just don't understand him. Donald Trump. Maybe he's going to be making friends with Marjorie. Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to keep an olive branch stretched out, but she just wants certain things, you know, that Donald Trump promised when he was running that to fulfill. And I don't know. Donald Trump. I tell you. Anyway. Okay. What else? Okay, now I'm just going to start getting more into stuff. Uh, let's see. But I think, Donald Trump, everybody, I was thinking, but I'm thinking now that it's going to go the other way. That I was thinking that Donald Trump, with all these this stuff going on and this corruption and all that he was going to do like a wag the dog, and wag the dog, is traditionally is when you're suffering from accusations of sex scandals or money scandals or whatever like that. Then you get a war going. You start a war, and then everybody forgets about those scandals, and everybody is so you create the I don't what is it? How do I put it? It's exactly what happened in Ukraine for the most part. Is you make a provocation to get the other guy to or either start the war or you start the war by creating a fake provocation against your country, like drugs going to America on speedboats or things like that. And of course, as we all know, that it's mostly that Donald Trump wants to get the oil and the resources for his rich buddies, of course. And that's a very, very, very well-known fact. And they even know the people. They even have the companies and everything that are all lined up. Who's going to get what and who's going to take all of that stuff. But anyhow, but anyway, that was he's. I think some of the scandals going on and including his own fight against his punching bags now, and maybe he's going to have to cool that off with Thomas Massey and with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and it looks like he's also kind of cooling down towards Tucker Carlson. So this Mandami, he's chosen Mandami to say, well, I got to cool my jets on that, and he's now cooling off on Tucker Carlson as well. It's I guess part of that was that Tucker Carlson interviewed Nick Fuentes. And I was kind of looking at this Nick Fuentes and saying, this guy he's just some sassy friggin' kid guy that shoots his mouth off all the time and all that. And but then you gotta look at Donald Trump. He's not a kid, he's an older guy, and he's far worse than Nick Fuentes. So Nick Fuentes is a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout compared to Donald Trump with insults or accusations and things like that. So Nick Fuentes, I don't know. He actually is far, his mind works a lot better. He's much better spoken than Donald Trump is. So he can choose his words, even if it's not nice words or whatever, but he can choose the right words to make it understandable about who he attacks, why he attacks them, and all that. So I guess you'd call that well-spoken. So I'm not that well-spoken. I don't even know the difference between May and November. So, or Ukraine and Israel. I didn't go jogging. I have a kind of a knee problem a bit. What's this guy? Oh no. Jogging? No leash with a big dog? I don't know. Normally everybody has a leash here in Belarus. I'm not saying I don't know, some people might not like that. Okay, anyway, but Donald Trump might do I was thinking he had a reverse wag the dog. And what did I mean by that? I have to read it myself because I can't even remember. So a wag the dog would be if he bombed Venezuela. But I think if you're looking at Ukraine now, that's what I was getting at. Ukraine is very vulnerable because of the exposure, and it might even be done on purpose. To be honest with you, they're exposing. Very, 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 very probable that they're exposing all of or some of the corruption of Zelensky and his gang of Nazis that run the government there. Oh, it's 3:00. Katushka is playing. Okay, but so maybe if I face this way, you can hear it better. So, but the vulnerability of Ukraine at this moment is, and this might even be planned. So this is the ripe time if they want to remove Zelensky. It's right now. This is the time to remove that guy, because Ukraine is going nowhere. Ukraine cannot beat Russia. And of course, that's not even the objective anyway. It's not to win a war against Russia, but it's to keep the war going. And if anything, is to weaken Russia, and for Merz and all of these people to get lots and lots and lots of money. Money. And these guys are all embedded in corruption. And I guess that's maybe what Maria Zakharova was getting at when she said this is a global mafia thing right now. And of course it is. It's Macron and it's Starmer and it's Merz. These people are, and it's not just them. I guess maybe it's a lot of time it's their military industrial complexes, you know, because they're being pushed right now. They're going into more production, more money for them. And you know, the other industries are going bankrupt in a lot of ways in Europe. I mean, the UK and Germany. So the weapons industry, that's the biggest industry in the United States by far, is the weapons industry. Everybody knows that. So I guess Europe wants a piece of that. And but if they can get Zelensky to abdicate, it does not mean that they're going to get somebody there that's going to be suing for peace. And it's very unclear if Donald Trump even wants peace or if he doesn't want peace. I don't really know what Donald Trump wants, or maybe they want to scale the war down to make it look like there's some sort of peace, similar to what's going on between Israel and Hamas over there now. You know, and Israel is probably supposed to just keep to a minimum all of their bombing. They're bombing Lebanon, they're bombing whoever they're bombing somebody all the time anyway. I don't know about anything that's going to be happening in Iran, because Iran is it's like kind of like poking the bear, but they're not a bear. I don't know, because they're not going to really just sit for it, you know, getting bombed. So they're going to bite back. And Lebanon can't really bite back. Israel, with the pagers and everything else, they've done a lot of damage to Hezbollah. So, but anyway, it's kind of a reverse wag the dog sort of a deal. And Zelensky, the thing is, you have to be careful with Zelensky, because he cannot back out of hating the Russians and want to exterminate the Russians, because that is all of the people that are surrounding him. You know, of course, they want to keep the war going. Zelensky can never, ever, ever try to go for peace, because if he's not going to get killed by his British bodyguards, because the British are his bodyguards there, and they want this war, you know, they're making lots and lots of money from that too. And then you've got the Nazis, and the Nazis, they want the territory back. They want that war. They want to hate the Russians. They want blood. They'll never probably stop. Now that they got their war started, and anybody talking about, I'll tell you what, it'd be a miracle if this war was over within a year. I mean, the war in all of its aspects. Because if the official war actually ends, it doesn't mean that these Nazis are going to stop. They're going to still continue, and the Russians are going to have to really, I don't know what happened after World War II, and they still had a lot of stuff going on, because then you had the Soviet Union, and the British and the Americans, they had their offshoots. The British, I guess, they got together with the direct descendants of the Banderites, and they were running operations into the Soviet Union, doing assassinations and attacks and things. And the United States, they took off somebody that was a splinter group off of the Banderites, and they were running that group to do their attacks and assassinations and sabotage inside of the Soviet Union, because that really did happen. This was even in the 1950s, around 1953, and they kept this Banderitism going. And I was wanting to, I'm sure that Scott Ritter knows a lot more about that than me, but you guys in the States, you guys can find a book, I'm sure you can, that details the history after World War II of this Banderite movement, and find out what was really going on. They even have the names of people that have been assassinated and things like that by the United States with these Banderites and all. So, and they loved him. They loved him in Germany. Adolf Hitler loved Bandera, and even after the war, when the Nazis were gone, they honored Bandera. They honored Stefan Bandera, because I'm talking about the people the powers that be, because they hate the friggin' Russians. They hate the Russians. It doesn't matter if they're communists or whatever. They hate the Russians. And by Russians, I mean Belarusians and Ukrainians. They hate the Ukrainians. And I think Scott Ritters has even said that, and that is true. Yes, you look at the history of all that, and they hate the Ukrainians. They hate the Slavs. They hate all Slavic people. They even hate the Poles. But it's just that they can tolerate the Poles a little bit. But they really hate the Ukrainians. They hate the Belarusians, and they hate the Russians. They hate them, and they want to see them all die. They want to enslave them. Anything that is detrimental, because they look at them as subhumans. So, and that is the truth. That's what it's all about, right there. So now let's continue on with this thing, and I'm getting some drops, so it's making my thing run here. Okay. So anyway, if you get rid of Zelensky, but it is a ripe time. But who, you never know who you're going to get. They might be worse. But like I said, the objective is not to get the war ended, but they want to get Zelensky out. And maybe, I don't even know why. Maybe it is the corruption. I don't know. Zelensky obviously has a really, really, really big thirst for money. And he is a multi-billionaire, a big multi-billionaire. There is little doubt that Zelensky is far beyond $10 billion. If you find out all of his hidden accounts and his hidden real estate and everything all over the place, everything is hidden. We only know what wasn't hidden, like I'm saying. And I don't know if anybody's ever going to be able to disclose all of the things that Zelensky owns in the industries and things like that. Very, very, very rich man. Uriah Heep. Look up Uriah Heep in David Copperfield, and that's Zelensky right there. We're so humble. Oh, I thank them. I thank them very much. I thank all of the French people for giving me lots of money. And to get the bad, evil Russians, that we were just minding our own business and we were killing them. We were killing them and trying to exterminate them off of the land and take that all over that used to be Russia. Just so happens they're all ethnic Russians. And we were minding our own business doing that. And here, they didn't like it, so bad, evil Russians. Okay. So this corruption, I guess it's called Operation Midas. The other day I was saying that you can call Donald Trump Mr. Midas, because he says everything that I do is the best. My doctor said that I have the greatest MRI that he has ever seen in his entire career, and all of my family and everybody is the best and the greatest economy that the world has ever seen. Look at these hands. I am the greatest. I am Donald Trump. And yeah, but they call this Operation Midas. But I think that's because of the toilet seat. Another thing, you think about that friggin' toilet seat, or not the toilet seat, excuse me, it's the entire toilet. They had a photograph. They had a photo of the toilet, and the toilet is all gold. The toilet is gold, but the seat is one of those regular old white seats that regular toilets have, I guess. And you know, you got to remember, I'll tell you what's this really strange, is Donald Trump had a golden toilet seat. So it's almost like, I'll tell you what, somehow they got separated. That golden toilet seat should be switched with the white toilet seat that was on this Mindlick's toilet seat. Mindick. I keep saying Mindlick. But this Mindick toilet seat, this guy that was in this Ross something, energy company that got the $100 million. So it's making me wonder, where did that toilet come from? And why didn't they have a gold toilet seat? And I came to the conclusion, with my Sherlock Holmes power of deduction, that that was Donald Trump's toilet. And he just kept the seat because it's cushy on the backside a little bit. He likes that cold gold feeling because everything that his hands touch turns to gold, and his butt must have turned that seat to gold, so that's Donald Trump. I wonder if what he defecates doesn't stink, I wonder if that's gold too. Anyway, the Trump that laid the golden turds. Anyway, what Operation Midas? It's like I don't know. it's like all these people in these instrumental positions, and this is what I was going to tell you about. They everywhere, the ones in charge of these different places, as the money starts rolling down the hill from the governments of foreign countries into Ukraine, everybody, their cut, and it was listed, and this is exactly, they know this, it is either 10 or 15% generally. So everybody that touches this money, they all take either 10% or 50%, 10 or 15%. And I think I've even heard that there was some people that were getting 20% or maybe even more. I remember when it was the food, I saw something brown, I didn't, after talking about Donald Trump's toilet seat, I didn't want to step in something from a dog here. The golden dog. Maybe it was a golden retriever. That's probably the only dog Donald Trump will ever own, is a golden retriever. But anyway, I've seen that they had this was a person, I think it was Umer or whatever, and I think he had to leave. He was also big corruption, and they were given like really crappy food to the soldiers, and taking huge amounts of money for it, and they were stealing the money big time. They were taking far more than even 20%. They were taking a huge portion, might have been 60%, and they took a very small portion, and that was actually done for the food for the soldiers. So, gosh. And anyway, when I lived in the Caribbean, I was telling you guys I lived there, and they have sometimes, and some of these agencies, even the legal ones, such as the banks and these loan agencies, they would take 20%. I was with some girl once, and she was going to ask about some loan, and I guess they have cell phones there. And they have a lot of poor people there, and I thought, oh, I'd help somebody getting a cell phone, and she's got a bunch of kids and all that, and her boyfriend, I don't know what he does or did or something, I can't remember, but she broke up with him eventually, and she had another boyfriend while she had the other boyfriend that was the father of her kids, and that guy was a mechanic or something. Anyway, she didn't have that much money or nothing like that, and I was going to help her get a cell phone, and it was some agency, but their loans are like, you take out a loan and it's like 20%, and I thought only gangsters got 20%. Jeez. But that was just the legal ones. But then you have other things within government and all that there, and it's up to 20%. Now that's incredible. Lot of stuff in different places in the world. I don't know about the States, any loan places or whatever, if they're 20% as well. But it's like Shylock. Remember Shylock? Pound of Flesh. It was in The Merchant of Venice. I mean, that's really something worth reading. I'll do a little bit of thing here talking about The Merchant of Venice. It was Shylock, and there's an investor. He had ships, and he was a entrepreneur. I don't know, maybe he had shops and sold clothes or something like that, and so he had his ships going out, and he had this big stuff coming, lots of money, values worth of things, this guy named Antonio. And so, and I think maybe to get these ships, to send these ships out, I don't know if they were his ships or if leasing ships, but anyway, to get all this stuff and then get it into Venice and make a lot of money. And so he took a loan out from Shylock, a Jew, and they signed a thing like and at that time, actually, this Antonio, who was a Christian, and he also gave out loans. He gave out loans, but at that time he was taking a big risk in getting this huge shipment, so he didn't have enough money at that time. So he was going to, do this and then get these vast returns and all that. And Shylock, he's the Jew that he hated Christians for the most part, and apparently he was mistreated by a lot of Christians apparently in the play. Anyway, in the Shakespeare play, Merchant of Venice, and then so he made as part of the agreement that if he doesn't get repayment, that he gets a pound of flesh from Antonio. And guess what happened? The storms, I guess, destroyed his ships, all of his ships. The ships were destroyed, and his cargo was lost. And then it came to Shylock, and Shylock, he demanded his pound of flesh. He didn't want the money back. He wanted the pound of flesh because that was part of the agreement. And yeah, so anyway, that's kind of representative about what is going on. I'm not saying that any anything broke like that, but it's maybe going to happen. You know, I think BlackRock has got themselves quite deep into Ukraine, and if Ukraine loses, then BlackRock, I don't know how much money they put in buying lands and stuff like that. I doubt very much that Russia is going to say, oh, okay, that land belongs to you now. I don't think so. They bought it for pennies on the dollar, and so they don't want a Shylock sort of a thing happening. And Zelensky is Jewish, isn't he? Linked with Israel. Anyway. So, and Shylock, I guess what we're supposed to all take away from that is Shylock the villain or the victim, you know? And it's like what is his name? Uriah Heep. Oh, we're so humble, Mr. Macabre, and you know, oh gosh, all of this stuff from old literature. It looks like it all repeats itself. These characters are right out of Shakespeare or Dickens or whatever. That's incredible. Okay. But it's like Trump even. Trump, you can even say, oh, we're the victims, we're the victims. Oh, they have such bad tariffs on us. And then we don't charge any tariffs on their goods, or they're very small. Of course, Donald Trump did a lot of lying in that. A lot of it is nothing but big, bold-faced lies and all that. And he seemed to have forgot the fact, like I always say, that the United States holds the world's reserve currency, and they can print as much money as they feel like it, and everybody has to accept it. And it's spread out so vast all over the world that it's like even a huge inflation, I mean, a big printing of money, it doesn't even affect it that much because it's all over and everybody in the world has to take it. And so when all you hear about this Russia and China now doing the trade, and many other countries doing the trade in their own currencies, you know, Donald Trump doesn't like that at all. And and it's not that they're creating their own currency like Donald Trump was saying, these BRICS countries, but they are trying to get away from the dollar because the dollar is weaponized. And it's not only just the dollar, but all of the financial institutions such as SWIFT. So Russia was kicked out of SWIFT, and Russia was expecting that. So was China and other countries, so they have their own system now. And it's interesting, really interesting. And Donald Trump, he's out for blood. And Donald Trump, did you all hear that just yesterday, he's now come up with another decision. And this decision is the most incredible. He said that any country that does any business with Russia will now be sanctioned. So it's like, well, you know, he's not doing that with Ukraine. So Donald Trump, he's still doubling down and trying to cause Russia's defeat against Ukraine. So, and this is apparently all based on Ukraine, you know. So it's very obvious. Donald Trump, he demands that Russia surrenders to Ukraine. But he doesn't take any sides. He's fully neutral. He's totally neutral in all of this. But Russia has to surrender. If Russia does not surrender, you know, that's what all these sanctions are all based upon. He thinks that the entire world is going to look at Russia like a pariah. Nobody is going to do any business. I wonder about the United States. Where do they get their uranium? Didn't it get, you know? Is that, and what about Hungary? Didn't he just tell Hungary that they are allowed to get Russian petroleum products just a couple days ago? Is he going to sanction Hungary too then? I don't have any idea. Donald Trump, I don't know if he knows what the heck he's doing, to be honest with you. So much for that. Anyway, every country, maybe he just thought that up. He thought that up from one day to the next. I think Donald Trump, he just makes up everything as he goes along. Lukashenko, I gotta keep reminding that in every video. Lukashenko said something brilliant. Donald Trump says one thing in the morning, he says the opposite in the afternoon. So, gosh, I don't know what he's... And everybody talks about Biden being crazy. Wow. Anyway. But what did he say? There's one good thing he said in an interview. He said that he found out about the hundreds of billions of dollars that go into the health insurance companies. And it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. I remember back in the old days when I was living in the United States, and I remember like the cheapest health insurance you can get, if you don't have it from a company, and most companies that you work for, any, you know, long time ago, I think you're talking about the 60s and the 70s, when you work somewhere, they always provided health care for you, your dental and your health and all that. You got some sort of health coverage, and a lot of time, I think it was starting in the 80s, they found they couldn't afford it anymore because it's getting really expensive. I mean, the whole medical industry, everything about it, and it's maybe even doctors and everything, they have people getting filthy rich from all of that in the United States. A lot of them. I didn't know that it was still like that. I thought maybe they had curbed it in some possible way, but apparently not. It's Marjorie Taylor Greene was even saying that people can't afford it anymore. That's why so many people, they don't. And you know, you got to hope that you have welfare, because you can't afford any health insurance. So you got to help hopefully that some welfare department is going to help pay for some operation if somebody beats you up, which I've even heard about. Somebody got their jaw broken, they got beat to a pulp, they got beaten unconscious. They even took the shirt off the guy and left it. Okay, I'll tell you, it was my brother, and his jaw was broken, and he got to a phone, and I don't even know how he did it because they stole everything from him. Luckily, they left his pants. I don't know if they stole his shoes and everything. You know, they really broke up the bones in his face. So his face was broken up and his jaw was broken, and he was able to go to a phone and somehow tell somebody to call an ambulance or something like that. I don't even know, maybe somebody, back in those days they didn't have cell phones, but anyway, he got some help, and he didn't have any health insurance, so luckily it was paid for by some sort of welfare or something like that, you know. I mean, you would think even that the streets were to be safe, maybe the government should pay for that when you get beat up on the street and robbed and who knows what. And that happens all the time in the United. That was back, when was that? When was that? The late 80s or no, that was early 90s. So the United States, I mean, nobody can imagine that sort of thing happening here in Belarus. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm sure it does on very rare occasions. Happens more in Russia than it does here, but Russia's a much bigger place, and they have cameras and things like that in Belarus. But I'll tell you what, if something like that happens in Belarus, the police here, they go bonkers until they find whoever did it. They look for evidence, and they're very, very good, and they're bam, bam, bam. It's not like in the United States, and I've even been involved in things when getting robbed and stuff at gunpoint, you know, and getting tied up and all that sort of stuff and put gags in your mouth. I've been in those kind of situations, and they never even friggin' got the guys. And it's like they were like totally incompetent. They didn't do crap. They didn't do crap on trying to find these people. So anyhow, that's the United States. Big difference in Belarus. When there's some crime committed, these people, they move their butt. They move their butt. They move their ass. It's like the same in Germany. They don't do crap in the United States, but in Germany or over here, they really try to go after it. I mean, I remember that in Germany. I don't know if it's still like that, but the United States, terrible stuff, you know. And anyway, so they should pay for, if you get beat up like that, they should pay for it because they're crappy in the United States. The government is a bunch of crap when it comes to trying to solve crimes and do stuff like that. Unless you're a rich person, of course. And I've been in like this third or developing country in St. Vincent too, and if it's a poor person, or I don't know about me, I didn't have any big crime committed against me at all, really, not any big. They killed my cats. Somebody killed, I think it was a politician and all that, but I didn't call the police because they're not going to do crap. How are they going to find out anything anyway? But I hear like the poorer people, when something happens to them, they don't do anything. They're never going to find anybody. They get away with all this stuff. I don't know. Well, matter of fact, somebody did. They broke in and they stole my wife's jewelry that was handed down from her great-great-grandmother. They stole that jewelry, and they didn't even come out. We had to keep begging them for days and days and days, and then they come out and dust for fingerprints. Like it was nearly a week later. Yeah. That good, very good detective work. Jeez. Obviously, they never found it. And I'll tell you what, if that was in Belarus, they would have got the people. They would have got the guy. The guy that stole it, they would have got him right away. Anyway, I can talk so many war stories. I'm already over an hour. Oh, let me keep going here. Okay. So, anyway, Donald Trump, maybe he's trying to make everybody think that he's such a great guy because everybody pays too much money for their health care, and he's not going to do crap about it either. You know, he said they should be able to decide where the money, but it has to go to the health. But how it goes into health care and all that sort of a deal, I don't know. Okay. And I just wanted to say Belarus system, it's not perfect, but it works better maybe than in the United States. Like I said, it's definitely not perfect here, but better than in the US. Okay, and that's also, let me think one more thing about Belarus. So speaking about it, let's see. Poland, I guess it was today, opened their border, or was it yesterday? They said, again, they're going to open up the border. They close the border, they open the border. They close the border, they open. I mean, it's all these countries that are on the western side of Belarus. They close it and they open it. They close it, they close these two, and they leave that one open. And, you know, who knows what the heck they're doing. Anyway, they do it in such a way, and it's been like this for years already now. And you have these huge lines, and mostly the trucks. Then the trucks, like when we had our container coming in, because we've shipped our stuff from the Caribbean and all that, it was way over a week sitting in line waiting to cross the border. The truck that was taking this small container, way over a week sitting there waiting to cross the border into Belarus, because they have it all blocked like that. And I guess obviously, if you guys know how politics works, they do that to try to punish the people of Belarus for not overthrowing the government. They even have signs over there saying, "You are now entering Kremlin-controlled territory." There's one thing right at the border, and it says, "Are you sure you want to go to Belarus? Because you never may come back. They may not let you come back," and things like that. All kinds of crap. You know, all these scared, oh gosh, oh, I don't want to go into Belarus because it's an evil dictatorship and they might keep me there. And remember when I went on vacation, went over to Germany and all that, and this guy that was in charge of the border, the top guy, since he saw that I was from the United States, so he calls me in and for some interview, and he's asking me all kinds of these questions about, oh, did I see, what about the price of the food and all that. He asked me if I've been to Ukraine and all that, and I think apparently, you know, because they stand with Ukraine. And if I went to Ukraine, was it Latvia or Lithuania? I think it was in Latvia. I get those two mixed up. They're the same. They're Chihuahua states anyway. But he asked me like 2 or 3 times if I went to Ukraine, if I'd been to Ukraine. I don't know. It was kind of a weird interview. I won't say any more about it. But anyhow, now Lithuania. Let's see. Lithuania border is closed. From what I know, I haven't heard that ever got opened up again. So it's like completely closed. And what happened originally, what happened on that is, I know that at least with trucks, they decided to close it, and there's all of these trucks, and I don't know, way over 1,000 trucks in Lithuania that cannot get back into Belarus. So they're sleeping in their truck, or maybe they have to have the money to get a hotel, or the people, or I have not the faintest idea. But anyway, so Belarus decided to reciprocate, and so they closed the Belarusian side of the border, and so the trucks going to Lithuania can't get back. You know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I think Russia started doing this too, because, you know, you got all this treatment from the West, and they started pulling all this crap on Russia, and Russia said, okay, we're going to reciprocate. That happened a long time ago. They started doing that. You know, it's even back when the United States was seizing all the Russian embassies. This is long before the special military operation. So, I mean, this is, if you want to go back hundreds of years, you can see all this stuff against Russia. They want to get those resources. And so anyway, so Russia said, okay, well then we're going to take some of your embassies and things. And then anyway, and this Donald Trump I think he might be faking like he wants to again be friends with Russia, because he's really dragging his ass. So, he's making these reproachments, and then, anyway. But so, anyway, when Belarus closed their side of the border, now it is all Belarus's fault, according to Lithuania. So they're not going to open up the border, and they said that Belarus is waging a hybrid war against Lithuania. And do you remember, it was even, maybe this all started with these balloons, supposedly these balloons. There was some balloons, apparently they floated over into Lithuania from Belarus, and it was turned out, at least in one case, I don't know if it's all these cases, but this sounds kind of really shaky stuff anyway, but at least in one case, it was cigarettes. So these balloons were bringing cigarettes. Oh, that's some dangerous stuff there. Drugs, human trafficking, cigarettes. Wow, they were bringing cigarettes over there. Apparently smuggling cigarettes into Lithuania. Whoa, that's some really bad stuff there. But so that's the hybrid war that Belarus is waging upon Lithuania. Makes me really wonder, somebody had to be sending the cigarettes, and somebody had to be receiving the cigarettes. And when the cigarettes are in Lithuania, what is it, Belarusians over there? I don't even know if it was Belarusians sending them. And who was sending them? And who was getting them? Is it Belarusians here and Belarusians there, trying to make some extra money? I'll tell you what, it's definitely the Lithuanians, if they're not even also sending them and receiving them, because their economy is worse than Belarus's. Oh no, but how can that be? That's in the West, and we're in the East. In the East, we're all poor people, and it's all corrupt and things like that. But if you cross the border from Belarus, you're seeing these nice fields and all the farming and all that done, then you get right over into a lot of these. I don't know about Lithuania. I can't remember for sure, but I think it was even Latvia. Then all of a sudden you see the houses are getting run down and the streets have holes in them, and things are slowly collapsing over there. People have huge amounts of money they got to pay for their rent and all that. And that's one reason why they asked me all those questions at the border. So. And a lot of them, like Lukashenko had said, and it's obviously true, is they're trying to study Belarus and see how come we don't have so much crime over here, and how come there aren't people begging in the streets and drug addicts all over everywhere, but they do it in their countries. But yet, I don't know, but we're the evil country over here. And it's very strange also that all the Americans and things I know that are here, they talk real nasty about the US, but they like it over here in Belarus. Isn't that really strange? Because it's so bad over here. So, and what else? Okay, but so these cigarettes, I don't think anybody knows who's doing it. Anyway, that's the news about that. I already mentioned that about. Oh yeah, what about Christians? What about the Christians in Nigeria? Donald Trump says the government is killing the Christians. The government is killing the Christians in there, and I don't know what the heck he's going to do about that, but apparently there is absolutely nothing whatsoever that says that the government or anybody is actually going after and killing any Christians for any certain purpose, because none of that is happening. I guess there is some sort of a dispute going over there, but it has nothing to do with any religion. I don't know, and I don't even understand what the heck Donald Trump, what does he want? Nigeria, I think Nigeria is one of the big African country that is going into BRICS. Well, lo and behold, isn't that just a coincidence? So Donald Trump, I mean, obviously, he's got a lot of, he's got to put out a lot of fires. He's got fires to put out all over the place. He's got to get the oil. He's got to stop the BRICS. He's got to defeat Russia. I don't know. I want to see Donald Trump's to-do list. He's got to defeat the Epstein stuff. Anyway, and be the greatest and most healthiest with the MRIs and the best hands in the world. So, I don't know. Donald Trump, he's got a lot to do. So, anyway. I guess that's about all I got to say, and I don't know. I'm getting really disgusted with Donald Trump. It's just like a lot of these other people, and nobody really knows, this big split. There's definitely a big split in, and Donald Trump Who's the one that did it? It was friggin' Donald Trump. He split his own friggin' I think Donald Trump is, he thinks, well, like what he leaves, you know, after he's been sitting on his golden toilet seat, he thinks that does not stink because it comes from Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, this guy, it's kind of like he doesn't know what the friggin' crap the guy is doing. And he can just go around and threaten everybody, you know. He's disgusting. He's really disgusting. He threatens and insults everybody, and we're all supposed to sit back and take it. Everybody on earth, every country, you know, his own people, his own supporters, his Republicans, everybody. Donald Trump has the license and the permission to go around insulting everybody, to threaten everybody, but nobody is allowed to say anything about Donald Trump. So you see all these leaders, you know, getting down on their knees and trying to do circus seals on Donald Trump just to save their own skin. I'll tell you, there's no doubt in my mind that everybody, probably even his own supporters, they're all going to breathe a sigh of relief when Donald Trump, you know, is no longer going to be the president. And Thomas Massey is actually warning Donald Trump, you know, that, or all these supporters of Donald Trump, what one thing he said is they have to be careful, all of the other Republicans, because Donald Trump is not going to be there in 2030. It's going to be somebody else. And these people have to be careful because they're going to be looked at as the politicians that supported a president that protected pedophiles. So, and like I said, Donald Trump, one of his biggest demons that he is battling right now is this this Epstein scandal. So anyway, that's about all I have to say for today. It's a very long video. Maybe some of you guys like that. Maybe a lot of people don't, because they don't like this long stuff. Because they say, yeah, it's too long, I don't want to watch it. Anyway, I'm like that. I don't like watching the long stuff. I like the maybe 30 minutes maximum, that's it. Anyway, everybody, thanks for joining me. I'll see you on the next one. So till then, bye-bye.